Okay, well, regarding Shout It Out, I want to make this like Shout It Out 2. um, I went online and saw some of the things that the other guys had posted, and I saw some pretty cool, interesting ideas. And they played through them, but didn't really necessarily describe what it was that they had done. So I wanted to show you some of those things so you could see some alternative stuff that you can play for the leads, but then also for maybe some rhythm guitar stuff. So, and I'll explain to you how those things work in case you're interested. So, as far as the lead is concerned, I saw basically two different ways of playing that. And when I showed you how to do it, I told you to start with the 7th fret of the 4th string and slide up to the 11th. But if you'll remember, when we did the higher part, had you start on the 14th fret of the 3rd string and then slide to the 18th fret and go. Well, in that same vein, you could, instead of playing it here, 7 to 11, you could play that starting on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string and slide up to the 6th fret of that same string. On the 2nd string, play 7. On the 1st string, play 7. Slide up to 9 on the 1st string, and then come back to the 7th fret of the 2nd string. Okay, so it would be like this. Which one in essence would be exactly the same thing that I showed you up here. Okay, so once you memorize this high part, you could, if you wanted, not play here, but just play up here because it's exactly the same thing, only just 12 frets lower. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Then I saw another way, which I thought was pretty interesting. It's not the way they recorded it, but it is a cool way of doing it. Because on the recording, you definitely hear the A to the C sharp, that 2 whole steps. But what these guys were doing was they were starting with the A here at the 7th fret and sliding up only a whole step or 2 frets. Okay, and then play the 9th fret of the 3rd string, so you got 2 of those 9s together. So it sounds like this. Like that. Then put the 1st finger on the 7th fret of the 1st string. Okay, so it sounds like this. And then slide up so that and if you do it faster, you definitely hear the slide on the 1st string. Okay, and then play only the 3rd string of the 11th fret of the 3rd string. So it sounds like this. Okay. Okay, then for the second line, you do almost the same thing. You start with the 7th fret, slide up to 9 on the 4th string, then play 9 of the 3rd string, 7 of the 1st string, but this time you're going to play 10 of the 2nd string with your pinky. And then you're going to lift it so that it dies. Don't take it off the string, just release the pressure so that it dies, and then make your slide with these other 2 notes up to the 11th fret. So it'll be like this. Then do your first run again. And then to finish it off, I would start with the 7th fret again, slide up to 9, but just bar this time. Play the 9th fret of the 2nd string, and then the 10th fret, I'm sorry, the 9th fret of the 3rd string, and then the 10th fret of the 2nd string. And then take that 3rd finger off and play the 9th fret of the 2nd string. So your 1st finger is barring all 3 strings. So it looks like this. So all told, oh, sorry. Like that. Okay. So that would be those two. And I thought that second one was pretty cool. So it's I don't think it's what they played, but it does sound really cool. So if you want to do that, do that. It was pretty neat. The other things that I saw was different approaches to rhythm playing as far as the way you're going to play these chords, the E, the F sharp minor, and the D and the A. And they'll be really good for alternative, if you got another guitar player or if banging away at those block chords just doesn't suit your taste, this is a really good alternative. And so I wanted to explain how they did it, so you could at least understand if you wanted to. The chords that I had showed you were E, F sharp, D, and A. Those are the chords for the song. There are, of course, other ways of playing these chords. Like if you've got a E here, okay, that's an E major chord, but you could play it differently. Like here's E, here's the third of the chord, G sharp, here's the fifth, B, and then back to E. So the major chord sounds like this. So instead of playing the root as the bass note, you could play the third and the root here. Okay, so this is the third of the chord and this is the root of the chord. Okay, so rather than play the chord like this, you could play it like this if you wanted to. Okay, or just play these two notes here. So let's do that. We'll play these two notes here. That's going to be the 6th fret of the 4th string and the 9th fret of the 3rd string. So this is 2 notes out of an E major chord. So it's still the same chord. Okay, so that's the first thing. We're going to play that 3 times. Okay. Then we're going to go to the F sharp minor 7 chord. Now, I showed you how to play an F minor this way. And what we're going to do instead is we're going to play F sharp minor 7. So to do that, you have to take this note here and drop it a whole step or 2 frets to that note, which is really easy to do. You just take your pinky off and your first finger's already covering that note. So it goes from this to this. Okay? So this is the 7th. We're going to make this an F sharp minor 7. So that sounds like this. Okay? So you got F sharp, A, C sharp, E, F sharp. Okay? So we could play the chord like this. Okay? Instead of putting this note in there, we're going to take this 5th and we're going to drop it and play the 3rd instead. So 1, 3, 7, 1. I play this chord like this all the time. Okay? Instead of playing that whole big block chord, let's just play these 2 notes right here. Okay? 7 and 9 on the 4th and 3rd strings. So we get this. Here's our E chord. And then if we just bring that up a whole step, our first finger up to the 7th fret, we get F sharp minor 7, or at least 2 of the notes out of the F sharp minor 7. So I got 2 notes out of E major, 2 notes out of F sharp minor 7. Okay, so then we got to play the D chord, and we're going to do the D chord the same way we did the E chord. If I can play E like this, I can play D like that. D, F sharp, A, D. Okay, so I could play the chord like this. So let's just, instead of playing it like this, let's leave the root note out, D, of the bass, and let's put the 3rd, the F sharp, in the bass instead. So you get 4 on the 4th string and 7 on the 3rd string. Okay, so it looks like this. Okay, which is the same thing as playing E, F sharp, D. Okay, E, F sharp minor 7, D. And then all that's left is the A chord. Well, instead of playing A here, let's bring A all the way up to here, using that same A shape that we used for E and for D. We'll bring it up here to A. This is an A note here at the 12th fret. So we can do the same thing. A, C sharp, E, A. Okay, so let's do that. Let's leave off the 12th fret. Instead, we'll play the 3rd and the root here. Exact same shape, exact same form. So this becomes our A chord, okay? So E, F sharp minor 7, D, A. Okay? So E, F sharp, D, A, E, F sharp, D. Okay, pretty cool way of playing the rhythm there, so really neat. Another way, entirely different way, is to do this. Okay, So that's basically the same thing. I've got an E chord here. Okay, so rather than play the E note in the bass, I'm just going to play these high 3 strings. Just before we bar them with the 3rd finger, let's just bar them with the 1st finger. And there's my E chord. Okay, then we're going to go to the F sharp minor 7. Now remember, this was F sharp minor. We take the pinky off. That's F sharp minor 7. And if we leave the bass note off, F sharp, the root note out of the bass, we get this, 11, 9, 10. Okay, so we go from 9, 9, 9 starting on the 4th string to 11, 9, 10 starting on the 4th string. 11, 9, 10. So, okay, then we need to go to our D chord. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to leave this shape intact, except that our pinky is going to play the 12th fret of the 4th string. Okay, so that means that the 11th fret here that the 3rd finger is playing is kind of redundant and not needed, but I don't take my 3rd finger up. I just leave it where it is. Okay, and I put my pinky on the 12th fret. So you get this, which is a really dissonant sounding chord, but in context it sounds fine. Now this is not a D major chord. It's not D major, okay? But if we break it down, we see that it's a D sus2 chord. Here's D, okay? Then E is the 2nd note of the major scale, so there's your 2. So you got your 1 and your 2 of a D major scale. And then A is the 5th. Okay, normally for a D major chord you're going to do 1 3 5, 1 3 5, 1 3 5. Okay, but in this case we're going to go 1 2 5, which is just a D2 chord. Okay, so instead of a D major chord we're going to go to a D2 chord, which is a pretty cool sound. If you play it by itself, it doesn't sound so great, but if you put it in context, it sounds good. E, F sharp minor 7, D sus2. Okay, and then you got to go to A again. Well, what we're going to do for A is simply take the pinky off and go right back to this chord, 11, 9, 10. And the reason we're going to do that is because, yes, it is an F sharp minor 7 chord, okay, but it's also, if you change the bass note, if you change that to A here, and if you look, see how it looks like a C major chord. If I were to play C all the way down here, oh, I'm sorry, you can't see it in the picture. If I was to play C all the way down here, you can bring that chord all the way up, and now it's A. Okay, so these 3 notes right here, depending on what bass note with you put, if you put F sharp with it, it's an F sharp minor 7 chord. If you put A with it, it's an A major chord. Okay, so this is E, F sharp minor 7, D sus2, A. Okay, so the rhythm winds up sounding like this. E, F sharp minor 7, D, A, E, F sharp minor 7, D. Okay, so I thought that those were really cool ways of doing it, really neat ways of doing that, and something that you could explore for different alternative approaches to rhythm playing. So, you know, shout out to those guys. That was pretty cool. So enough of that song, and we'll move on to something else in the future. So take care.